Hi everyone, I've got a bit of an idea to make a Christmas decoration for my craft room and I want to use some of the designs that are in my CM900. So I thought I'd bring you along with me and just let's see how this goes. So I'm going to come into patterns, I'm going to come into the holiday section where it's got the flower and the parcel. Then I'm going to come down here into the bottom section where you've got the Halloween pumpkin and the parcel. And the four designs that I'm thinking I'm going to use are this yellow and red bell, the green wreath, the blue bell and the tree. So I'm going to start with this first bell. I'm going to take the height up to 7.25 inches. And by doing it on this screen, it's going to make everything resize in proportion because this bell is made up of three elements. It's the bow, the bell, and then the clapper, I think it's called. So it's the overall height. So 7.25 inches. And I'm going to say OK. The first thing I'm going to bring on is the clapper and say OK and set. Then I'm going to add the bell and say OK and set. Now I've got a piece of card on my mat and it doesn't really matter what colour card you use because you're going to cover it up, but I've picked a kind of pale blue pool party colour and a green, and then I'm going to cover these in some designer series paper. I'm going to load the mat and I'm going to do a background scan and say go. And I just want to make sure that these two shapes fit onto this piece of card. So now I'm going to say OK and cut and go. Okay, so that says select next part. So I'm going to select the next part and choose the ribbon or the bow and say set. Now I'm going to unload this mat, take my two cut pieces off for now. I'm going to load the mat with some red card and I'm just going to come into the editing icons and into the icon here that lets you adjust the size, and I'm not touching the size because I've already set the size at the beginning, but I want 4 of these because I want to use 2 on this bell and I'm going to use 2 of this same one on the Christmas tree. So I'm going to say I want 4 and OK. OK, and again I'm going to do a background scan and go. So now I'm just going to position the 4 bows on this piece of red card. In fact, I'll go into this second icon here and I'll choose the top icon and I'll let the machine work it out for me. So I'm going to say OK. Now I can see that these top ones are probably going to come off this piece of red card. So I'm going to go into the icon here, top left, with the square, triangle and circle. I'm going to choose the 3 red boxes. I'm going to choose the second red box which chooses everything, and then I can just move them down a little bit onto, so I know that they're all on this piece of card. I'm going to say OK, OK, and I can see they're all on the red card now. OK and cut. and that's now finished. So I can unload the mat. So I'm just going to take off the 4 bows. Put that piece of red card aside for later. So now I'm going to bring in a piece of designer series paper. Load the mat, and I'm going to go back to home, OK to delete all patterns, back into the patterns, into the same section, choose that bell again, and it's already set at the height because that's the design I've just cut. I'm going to say OK and choose the bell and set. And I'm going to say I want 2 because I'm hoping to try and get 2 of each from a piece of 12 by 12 paper. And I can see that they look as though they're going to fit comfortably, but I'm going to scan it just to make sure. So I'm saying OK, doing a background scan and go. So I can see that they're both fitting on this piece of paper. I'm going to say OK and cut. And don't need any more parts for this. I'm only cutting the bell in the pattern paper. So I can say finish and unload. So there are the 2 bells. So now I'm going to go back to home, OK to delete all patterns, back into patterns and into this same section, and I'm going to come to the wreath and I'm going to do exactly the same. So I'm going to size it to 7 1/4. They're going to be 7 or 7 1/4. If 7 1/4 I can't get 2 from a piece of designer series paper, I'm going to make it 7, but I'm going to start off with 7 1/4 and hopefully see how I go. I'm going to say OK. Again, what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut the wreath and the bow in card. I'm going to cut the bow twice for each of the 4 designs. I'm only cutting the base layer in card once, and I'm cutting 2 layers of designer series paper. So I'm going to put the wreath on my mat and set it, and I'm going to cut this in a piece of card. So I'm going to do this now for all 4 designs, and then I'll come back. Okay, so I just want to show you on this other bauble shape, there's a hole in the top which I don't want. So I'm going to say OK and add, and I'm going to come into the basic shapes and I'm going to go and find a circle. And I'm just going to size the circle down so it's quite small, and then we'll test how big it is and see. So I want this circle to be bigger than that hole in the top of the bauble. So I'm going to come into the editing icon and I'm going to zoom in and zoom to 400% in the hope that I can see it better. And that circle actually fits over that shape perfectly. So I'm going to say, and it's within the bauble, it's not on the outside of the bauble, it's just covering that hole that would be like the hanging hole in the bauble, if that makes sense. So I'm going to say OK, I'm going to come into the editor. It's about 3/4 of an inch, that circle, just to give you an idea. So I'm going to select the 3 red boxes, select the box on the right which selects everything. I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to hit weld. And that's saying to me, OK to weld, pattern outline irreversible. And that's what I want. It's taken, I've welded that circle over that hole, so it's now filled in that shape for me. So I'm going to say OK, OK, and I'm now going to cut this. Just to recap, so I've cut 1 each of my designs from a piece of card. It doesn't matter what colour card you use because you're going to cover it up. But I just wanted to show you that I've cut all those out. And then from a piece of 12 by 12 designer series paper, I've cut each one of those designs again, but twice. So I've got 2 bells, 2 wreaths, you know, 2 more bells, 2 trees from there. And then from a piece of real red, I've cut my bows. Now, if I'd have thought about my placement when I first started cutting my bows and maybe rotated these 2 bows, I probably would have been able to get at least one of these from this piece of A4 card. So I'd have got like 7 bows. Whereas as it was, this space here just wasn't quite big enough to get 1 bow. So I've basically used a piece and a half of A4 card. But, you know, that's my fault. I probably could have got it a bit better if I'd have, as I say, worked out the placement a bit better. But, you know, it doesn't matter. It's just a piece of card, isn't it, at the end of the day? So now I've got all my pieces cut. They're all here. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with them. I've got some real red ink. And I've got a sponge. And I'm just going to find all the red bows. And just using some red ink on this sponge, I'm just going to go around the edges of the card. It kind of just makes the edges look a little bit darker. And gives it a bit of definition. Not sure how well you're going to see this, but it just darkens up the edges. So I'm just going to do that to each of these red bows. Okay, so now I'm bringing in my paper trimmer and I'm going to use the score blade. Just want to get all these bows the right way round. And, you know, this doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just doing it by eye, but I'm basically lining up the middle of the bow in the cutting track or scoring track. And I'm just going to gently score one of the bows, and then I'm going to stick that on top of the other one. You could fold these, you don't have to do this, you know, the scoring bit, but I'm going to use it for the actual cutouts in a minute, so that's why I'm doing this. So I'm just going to run a bead of glue in the middle of the flat one and stick the other one on top. Okay, so that's how that's looking. So I'm going to do the same. Just going to put a little bead of glue down the middle. It doesn't need much. I'm going to stick this on top, hold it in place until it grabs, and then I'm just going to put my finger on that fold and just lightly bend it up. Okay, so that's the 4 of those, and I'm going to do the same now with one each of the patterns. So one of the patterns and the card equivalent is going to stay flat, and one of the patterns is going to be scored. So again, I'm just putting it in my scoreboard, lining up, you know, roughly the centre with the trimmer, and just going to lightly score this because this is, you know, designer series paper, so it doesn't need to be scored too heavily. And I'm just going to finger crease it. So that's that one. I'm going to do the same with all 4. And these designs are not symmetrical, so that's why I'm saying I'm just lining it up as best I can. I'm going to start with the bell. I've got this little clapper that just needs gluing on. So I'm just going to apply a little bit of glue on the back and stick that down. I'm going to bring in my silicone mat. So this one is going to stick on top of here, and then this is going to stick on down the middle like I've done with the bows. So I'm just going to apply some glue. You don't need a lot. You're not sticking up a shelf, you're just putting some paper onto some card. So I'm going to line that up. And obviously the beauty of using wet glue is it gives you a little bit of wiggle room if you need it. So that's how that's looking so far. And then now I'm going to stick a bead of glue down the middle and put this on. Again, you know, you don't need a lot, I'm only using a little bit, and I'm just going to let that grab, and then you can, so that's how that's looking now. And obviously because I've got double-sided paper, if you look at this from the side, you know, you can see there's a pattern behind it, but it would work equally as well with single-sided. So I'm going to do the rest of these. There's that one, and then I'm going to do the same with this one. Apply a bead of glue just down the middle and stick this one in place. So that's the tree. So I'll carry on and then I'll come back when I've done all the others. Okay, so I've got all them assembled now, and I've put the bows on each one of the designs. And the very first bow I cut, if you remember, I cut 4 bows. 2 of them were to go with the bell, but the tree didn't have a bow, so I decided to cut extras, and I'm going to put that, I think, either on the top or on the bottom. I might put it on the bottom because the wreath one goes on the bottom. So what I'm going to do with these, I'm just going to put these on with dimensionals. So I'm going to put a dimensional on the back in the middle. I'm going to use one of the big ones, and I'm going to pop that. And this is the one, if you remember, where I took the hole out of because I didn't want the hole in. So I'm going to stick that up on the top there, like so, and then fluff this up a bit. So that's how that's looking, and I'm just going to do the same with each one. That's how that one's looking. I'm going to keep my silicone mat. I've got my hot glue gun on, and now I'm going to start putting this together. So I've got a length of jute string. Obviously you could use anything, ribbon, whatever you want. I've tied a knot in the top to form a loop. And again, this could be any length. I'm going to take my first little design, or my first bell. I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to apply some hot glue on the back, and then I'm just going to sit this jute into it. Now I'm not going to stick my finger in that because it's very, very hot, and I've done that before and burnt myself. So I'm just going to try and find my old glue scissors, and I'm going to hold it in place with those. Just until it sets up. And it doesn't matter if I get glue on this silicone mat because nothing sticks to it. So then I'm just going to stretch this out. I'm going to get the bottom of the string. I'm going to turn my tree over, and I'm going to stick this down at the bottom of the rope. And just hold it in place. And then what I can actually do is turn it over and press it from this side, and then I'm not getting the hot glue near my fingers, and the glue shouldn't stick to my silicone mat. And then I can fluff these up again, you know, when it's dry. So I'll just lift that off for now and let that sit. You need quite a big space for this actually. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to position my other two evenly placed along this string. Okay, so here it is finished and hung on my door. And now I'm just going to use some little clothes pegs and hang my Christmas cards on it. So there it is, hung on the back of the door, just on a command hook at the top. So I can take it down in the new year, and it's just got some of my Christmas cards on it. So I hope you like the project. Please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you don't already do so. Make sure you've got the bell notification icon switched on, and that way you'll not miss any videos when I upload them. And I just want to wish you all a happy Christmas. Thank you for supporting my channel over all the years I've been on YouTube, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.